Hi guys, welcome to the Wrestling Retrospective, and in this video I'll be doing my review of AEW Worlds End. The show kicked off with the Continental Classic semi-final matches, the first one being Kyle Fletcher versus Will Ospreay, and this was a great match. I don't think it was as good as the Full Gear match. I did prefer that one, but this at all was not a bad match. Like, it was very, very good, and as we know, these two can absolutely go when they want to. I thought adding blood for Will Ospreay's sake, I thought it gave a different dynamic to the match compared to the past two they had earlier this year, but it still worked really well, and I think for the most part, with Kyle Fletcher kind of controlling and having that kind of advantage because Ospreay was just absolutely leaking blood for most of the match. Having Ospreay kind of rise up kind of like a Sami Zayn or a... I can't think of Sami Zayn when it comes to rising up because he just is so good at it at the minute. Yeah, it just kind of worked for that match, and the fact that Kyle Fletcher lost, I don't think it hurts him at all. You know, you got to think about it as overall, if the tournament was done as a league, he'd have won the whole thing. The only person to get, I think it was 12 points he got overall. So he was I think he only lost one match, and that was it. So, it was incredible showing for him throughout the Continental Classic. And he also got the win against Okada very early in, which I feel like people might have left by the wayside. That's a huge win. Kyle Fletcher technically beat the person that won the whole thing. So, you know, you can't say that Kyle Fletcher didn't have a good showing in this tournament. And just because he didn't get past the semi-finals doesn't mean that he won't take almost the most out of this tournament. And yeah, I expect a lot of things for Kyle Fletcher in 2025, which I will probably talk about more in my end of year videos because he's mentioned quite a few times. But yeah, for me, this was a really great way to start the show, and I liked the added jeopardy of a very, very bloody Will Ospreay having to face Okada. Well, at the time we didn't know who he was going to face. He's going to face Okada later on in the night. So yeah, for me, not quite match of the night, but very, very close to being. And yeah, just shows that these two can absolutely kill it whenever they meet in the ring. Then, straight after that, we had the second of the semi-final matches of the Continental Classic, where we had Okada taking on Ricochet, in a match that was solid. I really don't have a lot to say about this one. It was just the match you kind of would have expected them to have, and it didn't go very long, or at least it didn't feel very long anyway. I haven't looked at the times for the matches yet, but yeah, I mean, they made the most of the time they had. I thought that the heel, I don't want to say gimmick, because it's not, just the heel persona of Ricochet, I think is working really well for him. And yeah, I think though both of them are heels, and sometimes that doesn't quite work, it worked here because Okada is so seriously sarcastic. It kind of worked well with the kind of seriousness that Ricochet is trying to put across, but isn't really working because everyone is just mocking him. The slap of the head because of the bold, I thought was hilarious from Okada. And yeah, I only thought Ricochet had the win when he did the vertigo, because Okada landed really, I won't say weirdly, but he landed really awkwardly, looked like he went shot into his head. But luckily, he's fine, and he didn't. After the match, Okada pretty much immediately got out of there, which made me feel like something was going to go down. And then Swerve came out, which I wasn't really expecting. But then Swerve and Ricochet have been having little interactions, but I didn't expect it to make it onto pay-per-view. And Swerve just absolutely embarrassed him. With having fans literally throw a shit ton of toilet paper into the ring, and I'm surprised they even used the toilet paper thing from the Hammerstein into almost into a storyline with Swerve and Ricochet. But I think it was be a fantastic match. See those two go at it, and it wouldn't surprise me if they had a match at Fight for the Fallen, but also maybe had it push onto Grand Slam. So yeah, for me, great match. Solid way to start. I think out of the two semi-final matches, Ospreay and Fletcher was better. It did feel like Okada was holding a bit, which made sense because of the second match he was going to have. And yeah, Swerve coming out and mocking Trevor at the end was funny to a point. I think it works well with Ricochet's ongoing heel turn. So yeah, everything kind of all positives all around for me, in my opinion. Following that, we had the Tijuana street fight between Mariah May and Thunder Rosa for the AEW Women's World Championship. And yeah, this was a decent match. The women never fail to really show up when it comes in like no disqualification matches, street fights, lights out matches, all those kind of things where there's kind of no rules. Yeah, they seem to do really well. I think I expected a bit more blood out of this one. Mariah May is very much known as a killer. I mean, look what she did to fucking Toni Storm. You know, you kind of expect that kind of violence all the time. The result made the most sense. I couldn't see Thunder Rosa winning this one, and Mariah May and Toni Storm are probably going to clash at some point. How that goes down, I have no idea, but I expect that Mariah will probably keep the title until there's a rematch with Toni. I thought that it was incredibly insulting, but is very typical Mariah May for her to use Thunder Rosa's own graveyard dirt against her to get the win. Like, I don't really understand why there was graveyard dirt there, other than the fact that she comes from the graveyards of Tijuana, Mexico. But yeah, it was just very random. Like, I don't even think they pointed it out at the start of the match. They pointed out the pinata that very clearly had tax in it. But yeah, I think, again, for this show, this was another solid match. The table finish at the end was stiff. Like, I honestly thought that Thunder Rosa was not okay afterwards, but I haven't heard anything that she's not okay, so that's good. Yeah, for me, as I said, Mariah May is clearly keeping the title for a while longer, or at least till Grand Slam, which is a few months away. And yeah, I think Thunder Rosa is a solid opponent to go up against, as we saw also against Toni Storm when she challenged her. But yeah, this title was never changing hands here, and that kind of took away from the match a little bit, but it was still very good. After that, we had MJF defeat Adam Cole to win, I don't know if it's win back or just win the Dynamite Diamond Ring for a 6th time. You know, the streak continues. Undertaker, take notes, because this is how you defend a streak. No, I'm obviously joking. MJF's streak is nowhere near Undertaker's. But yeah, it was a slower paced match that I kind of expected out of these two. I expected a very high octane kind of pace for these two. Maybe it's a case of, because Adam Cole has been so hurt over the past year, that he has to kind of take a slower style to him now. But yeah, it was still a very good match. It's kind of a classic MJF performance as far as like being an intellectual, getting rid of Taven and Bennett, trying to use the ring and not quite doing it until the end. And yeah, I don't know, it's kind of Adam Cole limping away from the match is concerning just because of the issues he's had over the past year. But as far as I'm aware, he's fine. I haven't really heard anything that he's not injured, so that's good. Yeah, it seems like Kyle O'Reilly has finally joined the Undisputed Kingdom. That's good, I guess. It makes perfect sense. They probably should have done this from the beginning. I don't know what that means for him in the conglomeration, or if there even is a conglomeration, to be fair, because when Orange Cassidy needed them, they weren't really there. I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, Willow was there on the last Rampage, but like during the match when the Death Riders were getting involved in the main event, they weren't there. So, you know, are they a group? Are they not a group? Are they a shit group? Maybe. But yeah, no, for me, this match wasn't the best match they've had. Like, the All-In main event was very, very good. But I expect the fact that these two were maybe holding back a bit for a match in the past, for a match in the future. So yeah, I mean, I don't think this rivalry is finished yet, because it's probably be finished when Adam Cole gets his win back. But in the minute, MJF is 2-1-0 against Adam Cole. So yeah, Adam Cole needs that big win back against MJF. So for me, it was a decent match, but I expected a bit more, and I suspect this is going to carry on for a while longer. After that, we had Konosuke Takeshita defend the International Championship against Powerhouse Hobbs in a good match. Like, it says a lot. It probably, I don't know, it was like the 8th best match on the card, but it wasn't bad at all. Like, it wasn't like the worst match by a country mile or anything. It was just a match that was fine. And yeah, it was just like there. I mean, for me, I probably wouldn't have put it on the pay-per-view. I probably would have saved it for Fight for the Fallen and maybe put something else in there. But as I said, it was fine. I thought the dynamic worked really well. Hobbs showed that he can hang with the best in Takeshita. I can never say his first name. In Takeshita. Yeah, I think Hobbs did really well in the kind of deep waters of the match, especially with a knee injury, whether it's a work or a shoot, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it added to the match. It made perfect sense that like Takeshita would be targeting that knee a lot, and trust me, he did. And yeah, I mean, to be fair, when I don't think I've ever heard during a match a "please be careful" chant when those two nearly fell off the top rope to do a superplex, and then they kind of set up again and everyone was just chanting "please be careful." Then they, not that long later, went up the top rope again together and they were again chanting "please be careful." I don't think I've ever heard that, but it showed that, like, instead of people going like, "oh, you fucked up," or "oh, botch this," they're just like, yeah, just fucking chill out, guys. You know, you don't need to be doing all this shit to fucking for us. Which is kind of a different way for the fans to react compared to usual. And it shows that, like, deep down, really, we actually are nice people on the internet wrestling community, if we want to be. Or at least the wrestling community, anyway. Yeah, I thought it was really innovative. I think that's what I say. From Takeshita to use a guillotine before setting up for his finisher that I can't ever remember the name of. Because I don't think I've ever seen him use a guillotine to set up for that, but it made sense because of Hobbs being so big that he would be able to outpower Takeshita during his thing. So if he kind of chokes him out a bit, he can kind of get that finish. And yeah, I say Hobbs looked great in defeat. I'm not sure again how legit that knee injury is, but if it's a work, then you know I don't know if I expect massive things out of him in 2025, but if he can stay healthy and kind of be more consistent throughout, then he could have a pretty good 2025. As for Takeshita, I expect the highest. I have him at the highest expectations 2025, and I'll talk about it more in the kind of predictions for Stars of 2025 video I've got coming up in the new year. But yeah, no, this was really good, and though it kind of felt misplaced on the card just because of how, like, I mean, I barely saw a build for this match, and I think it was because it was mostly done on Rampage. But yeah, as I said, it was a decent match what it was. Maybe we could have given Takeshita a better opponent for, or at least not a better opponent, that seems very harsh, but a bigger opponent for the pay-per-view, and maybe done this on Fight for the Fallen. But as I said, it was fine for what it was, and though it was probably the worst match on the card, it wasn't at all bad. Like, that would put it in a bad light. It was just the 8th good match on the card, if you will. Following that, we had a TBS Championship match where Mercedes Mone successfully retained against Chris Statlander in a fantastic match, but honestly, like Fletcher and Ospreay, I did prefer the Full Gear match. I know a lot of people, I've heard anyway, preferred this one, but for me, I feel like the Full Gear one was just that bit better. Yeah, Mone for me controlled the match for the most part. I was very surprised by this. I thought that they might have a very even match compared to last time. But yeah, Mone just, I think on points, Mone would have won as well. Like, she controlled the match for a very, very large part. And, you know, for me, it was even to a point where, like, she was getting desperate. She was using the ring apron to kind of cover Trish Statlander while she was beating her up. She was constantly going for count-out victories at one point and trapping the boot in the ring. Like it was kind of, it wasn't in the ring. It was like when she took the apron off, there's kind of like some scaffolding kind of stuff, and she kind of trapped her boot in there. And then I kind of knew that Statlander was losing because I've never seen someone, and I might be wrong, and please do put in the comments if I ever am wrong. Oh no, Eddie Guerrero did it at WrestleMania. Shit. But it's very rare you see someone who doesn't have a boot on win the match. And yeah, for me, I thought it was a foregone conclusion as soon as Statlander took her boot off that was going to be Mercedes Moné's win. I'm surprised that it took Mercedes Moné so long to go for an ankle lock, because if someone's foot is exposed, you'd expect him to, like, kind of target that as far as, like, a weakness goes. And yeah, I don't know, it's kind of like, as I said, I kind of started getting disappointed as soon as Statlander's boot came off. But yeah, Statlander showed huge resiliency again, probably even more than she did in the first match. But yeah, I mean, for me, as I was very disappointed. I got my head all built up that Statlander was going to get the win here and become the new TBS champion, and yeah, it got shattered very quickly. And yeah, I'm really disappointed that she didn't get the win here. Like, genuinely, I thought it was going to be it. But I said, Mone, it makes the most sense to keep the belt on her because she's very popular, as annoying, and just, I hate her so much. But no, it makes sense. She's very popular for everything. She represents the company very well, even though Statlander could do all that stuff as well. But yeah, I hope that they kind of do put some more investment into Chris Statlander, maybe as a women's world champion instead of a TBS champion going into the new year. But yeah, I do worry for what's next with Chris Statlander, just because she did look so fucking defeated after the match, and in the interview she did after the match as well. But yeah, I say this was a great match. Do not get me wrong. It was very good. One of the better matches of the night. I did prefer the full gear match though. But yeah, Mercedes Mone still the TBS champion and moves on to concentrating on Wrestle Dynasty next week against Miyu Shirakawa. Following that, we had the finals of the Continental Classic where we had Kazuchika Okada defeat Will Ospreay to retain the Continental Championship. And yeah, for me, Will Ospreay, you cannot go into a match with Okada looking like you did, because that was ridiculous. Like, you're telling me there was like, what, 5 matches between between Ospreay and Fletcher and Ospreay and Okada, and you're telling me no one thought to wash his face at least? Like, there was blood all over his face. Like, why not just at least wash his face, you know, and make sure the blood's gone away? I mean, I get the bandage, I get why it was there, that made sense, but to have his face just absolutely covered in blood made no sense to me, and he looked ridiculous. But it did kind of add to the match in a way that I didn't really expect. And yeah, it was a brilliant match. For me, it was my match of the night. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. Even in the state that Ospreay was in, he just absolutely went out there and killed it. So did both of them. As I said in the first part, I love how seriously sarcastic Kazuchika Okada is, because he's just fantastic as a heel. It makes perfect sense, but for him to be pissing about and kind of having that comedy element to him works well in the ring. Yeah, but for me, the final sequence is just pro wrestling at its best, and just having those kind of... I know it's a lot of no selling and people don't like that kind of thing. Me, I see past it, and I just think it's absolutely fantastic to watch it all go down. It's like a final sequence that comes out of bloody nowhere. And yeah, after the match, we saw the return of Kenny Omega. Now, there's a few things that kind of annoyed me with this. The main one being, Tony Schiavone said at one point, oh, but we don't know how he's back, if he's going to be in ring capacity or not, or, you know, if he's even medically cleared enough. It's like, Tony, he's got a match next week against Gabe Kidd at Wrestle Dynasty. What do you mean, what if he's not ring fit or something like that? Like, for me, this teased the potential of Omega versus Okada, which is obviously a match that everyone's going to be clamouring for in AEW, even though, and for me, I'm clamouring for it because I haven't seen the New Japan matches, so yeah, I mean, like, it's a match I very much want to see. It's similar, I have a similar thing with the fact of Ospreay versus Moxley. I know it's happened in New Japan, but I desperately want to see it in an AEW ring. And yeah, I mean, and again, it's like, I don't really get the point of bringing Omega back if it isn't to have it be in an in-ring capacity, because, you know, last time they did this, the Elite just beat the shit out of him, which is something I was also annoyed about, because last time we saw Kenny Omega, it was Okada, Perry, and the Bucks beating the shit out of him and laying him out for even longer in storyline. But Omega, what, just came in, handed him the title, and that was it? Like, no, if someone beat the shit out of you, took you out for even longer than you should have out for, you would do something about it, wouldn't you? Like, immediately. So I'm interested to see what the story is going to be with Omega, especially as the Elite isn't really around at the minute. And it's one of the reasons why I was expecting Okada to lose the title, so I thought that he would also disappear with the rest of the Elite, but that's not the case. So yeah, as I said, I don't know where this goes as far as Omega goes, but I know it's in an in-ring capacity because A, he's wrestling next week, and B, they wouldn't bring him back into the fold of AEW if it wasn't going to be in an in-ring capacity. So, but yeah, as I said, Okada and Ospreay went out there and killed it. I know they've had better matches, and I know they're going to have better matches when Ospreay is at like 100%, and they kind of go out there for like half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour, and absolutely kill it. But to say that Ospreay was all beat up and bloody and all kinds of messed up, these two went out and put on an absolute classic. And yeah, that's why it's my match of the night. And in the main event, we had Jon Moxley successfully retain the AEW World Championship against Hangman Adam Page, Orange Cassidy, and Jay White in a fatal 4-way match. And yeah, this was a decent match. I expected a little bit more out of this one. For me, the finish was a little bit abrupt. Like, I didn't really see it coming like you would see in regular fatal 4-way matches. And though, like, everyone did kind of hit their finishes, not on everyone else, but just on a few people within the match, I just kind of, it felt very, boom, the match is over. And I was like, okay, like, what? I don't know, or maybe I just lost concentration for a bit and it suddenly ended. I don't know. But yeah, for me, it just, some of this match just didn't make sense. And what happened after the match annoys the hell out of me. But yeah, for me, you'd have thought that the Death Riders would have been more involved. I know that they were involved at the start of the match, and they were involved in the finish of the match, or at least Wheeler Yuta was very much involved in the finish of the match. But there's no rules in a Fatal 4-Way match. You'd expect, if Moxley has to do anything he has to do to keep the title on him, to control AEW, to show all these people, to bring the peace to his people, the Death Riders would have been there the whole match, and it technically would have been a Fatal 4-Way match, but it actually would have been a blue 4-on-3 handicap match. But yeah, there were very, very little times where they involved. And then, yeah, I mean, like I said, Yuta did the most damage. He's the one that took out Jay White, I believe, and then Moxley also took him out. So I and it was only last night, I can't remember. But, you know, Wheeler Yuta did like the most damage out of every one of the Death Riders, which was great to see because Wheeler, his loyalty said be questioned, so it makes sense that he would be the one that kind of helps Moxley the most. Pac was very conspicuous by his absence with this. I don't know where he was, whether he was just going out. I don't know. It might be something as simple as he went home for New Year or something like that. But yeah, he just like wasn't there. I was like, okay. And then yeah, I said the result makes sense. I get why they're keeping the belt on Moxley. This whole thing might even go all the way through next year. But for me, I'd probably keep Orange Cassidy away from this now, at least. I'd like to see a singles match between Jay White and John Moxley. And obviously, Hangman and Moxley, I'd love to see. It was one of my favourite matches from last year. So, I don't know, it was like a bloody Texas Death match. But I'd love to see these two go at it again, especially with this new side of Hangman that we've seen over the last year or so. But yeah, as I said, result made sense. I get the point. But then, what happened after the match? Which I don't understand for the life of me, right? So FTR came out, which makes sense. They're feuding. We knew there was going to be some kind of match between the Death Riders and FTR at Fight for the Fallen. That was confirmed pretty much after what happened. And then they brought out Adam Copeland. Great, Adam Copeland's back. Fantastic. You're seriously expecting me to believe that Adam Copeland is going to be the saviour of AEW? Because that is hilarious to me. That someone who has been associated with WWE for so long, way more than Moxley ever was, is now going to save AEW, because that's just hilarious to me. The fact that AEW want to be the alternative to WWE, and yet they're having one of the most WWE guys come and help save their company, essentially save the company. Also, you're expecting me to believe that Copeland is a genuine threat to John Moxley. Like, in my opinion, John Moxley could kill Adam Copeland fairly easily in a match that kind of, well, in any match really. Like, you know, if Moxley can more or less destroy Orange Cassidy, he can very easily destroy Adam Copeland. And yeah, I just don't really understand kind of why they've gone with Copeland. I get him very popular. You know, it makes sense that the biggest babyface in the company will face the biggest heel. And that will be the case with Copeland and Moxley. But yeah, for me, the match itself, I was left with the feeling of expecting and wanting more. And the finish just made not the finish, what happened afterwards made no sense to me because, in my opinion, Copeland is zero threat to John Moxley at all. So those were my thoughts and opinions on AEW Worlds End 2024. And yeah, the last pay-per-view of the year, the last video of the year will be this one. And yeah, I'd like to say thank you everyone for watching the channel this year. It's been a massive year for the channel. You know, we started the year on 60 subs. We're now on, as it stands, 414, I think, which is huge. And yeah, I mean, I might do a short video for New Year's Eve just about that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's been, in my opinion, a great pay-per-view to finish the year off. I don't think there was any really bad matches, though I did really not like the ending of it. And it's not just because I hate Adam Copeland. But yeah, no, I thought it was a really great pay-per-view, as I said. Ospreay and Okada, I thought was match of the night, but like the whole Continental Classic this year was fantastic and better than last year. And the 3 matches we got at World's End were great. Sorry about that. But yeah, do like the video if you enjoyed it. Do subscribe if you stick around for more wrestling content, and a lot of wrestling content coming in the new year. We have wrestlers of the year, matches of the year, breakout stars of the year, and my predictions on kind of 10 to 13 superstars and wrestlers I think are going to be stars in 2025. As well as many other things, a lot of Royal Rumble content coming up in the new year as well. So yeah, do stick around, there's a lot of stuff coming. I think there's like a good 15 videos coming out next month. So yeah, do stick around if you enjoy wrestling, and I'll thank you once again for watching this video and for watching throughout the year, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you later.